This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning, and welcome to the Annisquam Village Church. Know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey and wherever you are physically located, you are warmly welcomed and deeply accepted here. On this fourth Sunday of Easter, we continue with two readings. Usually we only have one, but this week we're going to have two. The first, another story of Jesus appearing to the disciples, a post-resurrection story where he shows up in the breaking of the bread. The second story is a description of how, after that experience, the first disciples again witnessed the resurrection of Jesus in the breaking of the bread. And what are we doing after church today? Breaking bread. So hopefully you can see the line that goes through. So together, both stories point to what's essential about Christian life: gathering in community, sharing with others, reaching out to those in need. I am so delighted this morning that Courtney Allen from Backyard Growers is here to share their extraordinary work, which really exemplifies what it means to show up in the world as it is, with the kind of commitments we also have: care for creation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, outreach. When I heard her speak last Saturday, I was like, oh my God, we have to bring her here. And it wasn't easy. They have a few things going on in the growing season, just a few. So we're really grateful that she is here today. Who else might be visiting for the first time? Anyone? Raise your hand if you are, so we can welcome you. What about online? So hello, good people. So Kimberly, it says Gillis, Kimberly, U.S. I received a text from her this morning. She is not in the U.S. She's actually in France.
Bonjour.
So every now and then, right, some of our community members join us from, there she is. She's showing us herself. Oh, there she is.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Oh, so great that you could join us. She usually joins us online from Wenham, so we don't often get to see her beautiful face. So hope you're having a great time in France. And as often is the case, we have people joining us today from Maine, New Hampshire, Florida, and right here on Cape Ann. So glad that all of you are here today. So dear friends, the peace and joy of the Lord be with you. And let us offer each other a sign of that peace. Please rise for our opening hymn. It's found in your bulletin, in your order of worship. It is entitled Spring Carol, and I think you'll recognize the tune. please stay standing and join with me in these words of invocation. Creator of all, Christ who walks with us, Spirit enlivening us, as we move more deeply into relationship with you and with the entirety of creation, open our hearts to new ways of being and our minds to greater understanding of our place in the world. Transform any notions of self-centeredness into community-mindedness, and expand our sense of community to include all creation. May we fall in love with our more than human neighbors and understand that our needs and well-being are intertwined with theirs, our very flesh and breath entangled with a billion others. Move us to see your presence and wisdom revealed in the intricacy of everything around us. Fill us with compassion to live in a way that extends benevolence to all creation. Amen. Please be seated.
Good morning. Today I'll be reading a story written by Laura Allery and illustrated by Cass Reich called What Grew in Larry's Garden. You're going to like it. It's a good story. In a sprawling city, in a leafy neighborhood, on a narrow street, in a cozy house with a tiny yard, lived a girl named Grace. Next door, in a yard just as tiny, Grace's neighbor Larry had a garden. In his garden, Larry grew all sorts of vegetables, but not ordinary ones. There were buttery yellow carrots and purple potatoes, rainbow chard and scarlet runner beans, rosy tomatoes the color of ripe peaches, and black ones with red insides. You won't find these in most grocery stores, declared Larry, admiring a zebra-striped tomato. Grace thought Larry's garden was one of the wonders of the world. Every spare moment she had, Grace helped Larry in his garden. Together they watered and weeded, planted and pruned, hoed and harvested. And when bugs burrowed into the carrots and slugs and snails chewed the lettuce, Grace and Larry solved the problem together. We can figure this out. At the library, Grace learned that lots of bugs don't like the smell of marigolds. Grace and Larry planted marigolds among the carrots, and the bugs disappeared. As for the slugs and the snails, they picked them off with their bare fingers. Our hard work will be worth it, said Larry, popping a slug into the bucket. This is important. We're not just growing vegetables. What are we growing? Asked Grace. Wait and see, said Larry. Keeping squirrels away from the tomatoes was a bigger problem. We can figure this out, said Larry, scratching his head. They built little cages out of wire. The tomato plants would grow inside the wire, but the squirrels could not get at the fruit. Sometimes fences are handy, said Larry. When summer ended and autumn came, Grace helped Larry gather and dry seeds to save for next spring. Later that winter, they started growing the tomato seeds in little cups. There were hundreds of them. Larry, a teacher, took the tomato seedlings to school so his students could look after them. What will they do with all these plants? Grace wanted to know. That's the best part, said Larry. These are not just tomato plants. What are they? Asked Grace. Wait and see, said Larry. Winter melted away and spring sprouted. One warm afternoon, Grace found Larry on his porch with a pile of papers in his lap. You wanted to know what my students would do with the plants. Listen to these letters. Dear friend, I'm the kid who used to steal pears from your trees. I'm giving you this tomato plant to say sorry. Sincerely, Matthew. Dear bus driver, I rode on your school bus for years. You were always so friendly to all the kids. I'm giving you this tomato plant to say thank you. From Adira. Dear Mrs. Bianchi, I live next door to you, but we hardly ever talk. You have the most amazing flower garden. It makes me happy just to see it. I'm giving you this tomato plant to tell you that you make the world more beautiful for a lot of people. Best wishes, Amrit. My students will give the plants away, and they wrote these letters to tell why, explained Larry. Every plant is a gift, a little green tendril reaching out to someone, connecting people. Now I see, cried Grace. We were growing a whole lot more than tomatoes. Exactly, said Larry. But a shadow fell. One afternoon, Grace went outside and found Larry sitting among his tomatoes. The plants looked wilted. So did Larry. And then Grace saw why. The neighbor on the other side had added a big panel to the top of his fence, blocking out the sun on Larry's garden. So much for my tomatoes, Larry said. The looming fence made the garden seem smaller than ever, just a tiny patch of earth. Grace looked at the drooping tomato plants and thought about how they spread kindness. She gave Larry a hug. We can figure this out, she said. Larry went next door to speak to his neighbor, but they could not agree. He says the fence makes him feel safe, said Larry with a sigh. I guess that makes sense, said Grace slowly, thinking about the handy fence that protected the tomato plants from hungry squirrels. But I have another idea. What's that? Wondered Larry. Wait and see, replied Grace. The next morning, when Larry's neighbor stepped outside to get the newspapers, there on the porch was a small pot, a packet of seeds, and a note. Dear neighbor, I live 2 doors down from you, and I'd like to help Larry in his garden. I'm giving you these seeds to say I hope we can all be friends. I think having good friends is the best way to feel safe. Sincerely, Grace. P.S. I have a plan. Could you meet me outside on Saturday morning? That weekend, Larry heard hammering. When he went outside, he found Grace in the yard next door, working side by side with his neighbor. The high panel on the fence was gone. So was the shadow. Now they were pounding nails into the fence and tying strings to make a kind of ladder. Larry, cried Grace, come see. Larry peered over the fence and saw seed packets. We're planting beans, explained Grace. They're going to climb the fence. Larry's neighbor looked up from the string he was knotting. I figured we could put this fence to better use, he said. That afternoon, Larry and Grace and their neighbor sat down together and feasted on fresh lemonade and cherry tomatoes from Larry's garden. They were still warm from the sun. Larry Zakarko has spent his life in gardens. He's a real person. He learning their mysteries and miracles. He knows that something that appears as dry and dead as a seed can burst into life. When he started teaching, Larry faced a classroom full of students with troubles at home and at school. He saw possibility in them too. Working with soil seeds in an unused greenhouse, Larry showed his students how to get their hands dirty. Kids who couldn't sit still in class were focused and calm when they worked on plants. He began to imagine a project that would take his students outside the greenhouse. He encouraged each student to deliver an heirloom tomato plant, started from seed during class to someone in the neighborhood. They were to include a letter with the plant explaining why that neighbor had been chosen to receive the gift. His students were terrified, but they did it. Larry was sure that if they got past the fear, amazing things might happen. One student gave a plant to a woman in his apartment building whose son has died. I wanted to let her know that there's still life in this world. Pardon me. Another described how he fearfully thrust a plant and letter into the hands of a grumpy old man down the street and then ran away. A few months later, the man surprised him with a gift, a brown paper bag full of heirloom tomatoes. The students were growing community. Growing anything takes patience. Possibility hides in every seed. Each year, Larry's students continue to find possibility in seeds and in themselves, growing their community one plant at a time.
Luke chapter 24, pages 13 to 19, 21 to 35. Don't worry, it's not that long. Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all the things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name is Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, but we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Moreover, some women in our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning. And when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive." Some of those who were with us went to the tomb, and they found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him. And then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour, they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The gospel of the Lord. And
So the next part of the story we are about to hear is from the book of Acts. And you may or may not know that the person who wrote the Gospel of Luke is the same person who wrote the book of Acts. So this is a continuation of the story, and it will be offered by Sarah Sieber.
A reading from the book of Acts, chapter 2, verses 41 through 46. On the day of Pentecost, after hearing Peter speak to the apostles, about 3,000 persons welcomed his message and were baptized. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. Awe came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together in the temple, they broke bread at home and ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all the people. The word of the Lord.
So you may remember in my Earth Day sermon last week, I said, if we want to reduce carbon emissions, we know we have to change. And if we simply live the way we've always been living, nothing's going to change. So what can we do? We know three things. We can start by changing the way we eat, we drive, and we heat our homes. There are other things we can do, but those are three big ones. And doable. We can do it. And the UN climate report tells us we have 7 years, so we have to do it now. And I also suggested in last week's sermon that when we access our hearts and tune into love for God, love for the earth, love for our children and grandchildren, love for ourselves, when we do that, we can find creative possibilities that we didn't even know existed. Being able to grow our own food can be part of that, Since 2010, Backyard Growers has become part of the Back to the Home Garden revolution on Cape Ann. Their work illustrates not only the message of last Sunday's sermon, but what they're doing is profoundly connected to the ways that we say we want to show up in the world through our commitment to creation care, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and outreach. I cannot think of a group that would be better for us to partner with than Backyard Growers. And I'm so excited that Courtney Allen said yes to the invitation, which was really very last minute, to be with us today. Courtney.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me here today. I just wanted to do a show of hands. Who here already grows some of their own food? So a lot of you. And a lot of you are probably familiar with us already too, right? Yeah, you grow with us at school. Yeah. So as Sue mentioned, we have been in Gloucester for about 13 years. Our mission at Backyard Growers is really focused on community cultivation. Our work is aimed at building healthy, connected, and resilient communities by empowering people to grow their own food. And for me, parts of our mission become more important at different times, and the resilience piece is very essential, especially when we're talking about climate action and the climate crisis. Growing your own food enables you to, contribute to a lower carbon food system, but it also allows us to build more resilient communities where we're all more connected to each other. When we're growing food together, we get outside, we talk to each other, we share, we cook, we eat together. And that's really at the core of what Backyard Growers does. And the empowerment piece, we used to think we're teaching people how to do something, but really when you talk to gardeners and your neighbors and your friends and your family, people already know how to grow their own food. They just struggle to access the resources. So what we do every year is we deliver not just growing spaces in the form of backyard gardens, community gardens, grow bag gardens, school gardens, but also for our community program participants, they receive free trainings, free seeds and seedlings, access to optional garden mentors, and then just a whole long season of opportunities to get together and chat and really nerd out about tomatoes and spicy greens. That's mine. I like that one. But over the years, we've really grown to begin to do this with more nonprofit organizations on Cape Ann. We now work with 14 different organizations just to make sure that we're really accessing people where they're at. So that comes down to working more closely with the food and housing insecure, with people who are in recovery, with at-risk youth. And it's through those partnerships, in addition to our programs, that we're really able to make that happen. But if we switch to our backyard garden slide, Rick. Our organization really started at Lara Lepianca's downtown Gloucester yard. She was struggling in 2008, as many people were, to feed her family and keep healthy food on the table. So she converted her downtown Gloucester yard into basically a mini urban farm. And you can go check it out if you do a creepy drive-by. I do that at her house all the time because it's just fun to look at. And as she's building out this big mini urban farm, her neighbors started saying, hey, how are you doing that? I'd like to learn how to do that. And so Backyard Growers was really born. And she started helping people figure out how to build, just one raised garden bed in their yard. And if you, go down to downtown Gloucester, everybody's kind of squished in together. So it happens pretty creatively sometimes. And at this point, we have built gardens for hundreds of households, really with a focus on low to moderate income families, seniors, just trying to help people that wouldn't necessarily be able to purchase those vegetable seedlings, get the seeds they need, get the compost that they need. So over the course of the first few years, that was our central program, and we still have it. We still build garden beds down people's side yards and big staircases, but we also got our community garden program going. We now manage 6 different community gardens all over Gloucester in partnership with Gloucester Housing Authority, the Caleb Group, and the City of Gloucester. We have over 100, we must be getting near 200 community gardeners at this point, and they have access to all the same resources as our backyard gardeners. We just also opened up part of a new garden, I'll talk about a little bit more later. But from there, we really saw the demand for community garden space triple during the pandemic. So we started our grow bag garden program, so our 3rd community program that really allows us to access gardeners who, don't own their own homes, so they have a hard time getting landlord approval for a raised garden bed, or they have unusual outdoor space, but they're not in a Gloucester Housing Authority neighborhood, which would get them into a community garden, or they're just dealing with the fact that our Burnham's Field community garden has been packed. So really, the grow bags let you take, I think in one grow bag kit, we give them 3 different size bags. They're pretty big. There's a 25-gallon that's that. I've put zucchini in that before, it's a big guy. A 15-gallon and a 10-gallon. And then again, you get all the dirt, the compost, the seeds, the seedlings, the same trainings. So really, we try to meet people where they're at and give them the resources that are gonna let them grow the things that they know they eat all year long, or keep food traditions alive from their family, being able to really plant the things that you're used to eating in your home country and then share them with neighbors. One of my favorite things is at the end of the year, we do a gardener survey, and we get all these quotes back from community gardeners just about what their favorite part of the year was. And it's really beautiful to see how much of it is about sharing with each other and how you met someone new because your garden bed was next door to, someone who had just moved here from Syria, or an older woman who was still making tomato sauce the way that her mom and her grandma did. That's like a really beautiful piece of community connection that comes through food that we see in our community programs. And, oh yeah, there you go. That's my driveway. So from grow bag gardens, that's something that really came about around 2020. But since 2013, we've also been in Gloucester's public schools. So kids in Gloucester are growing food at home, but then also with us in their school gardens. We are everywhere from the preschool and Pathways for Children up to O'Malley Innovation Middle School. From pre-K through 5th grade, we run salad days and fall harvest days programs, which allow kids to plant with us and their schoolmates yeah, you do it. We plant lettuce seeds with the kids in the spring, in late March, early April, and then they harvest with us in June. And then once we've harvested in June, we plant fall crops that grow over the summer and that volunteers really help us to maintain at the school gardens, and then they harvest again in the fall. So that's really like a consistent pre-K through 5th grade experience. And then when they get to middle school, we go deeper with food systems programming that's tied into their curriculums. So the 6th graders, they learn how to grow popcorn with us, and then that plugs into their science and math curriculum. The 7th graders learn how to grow wheat, and then mill, thresh, winnow, that's the wrong order, and bake it into bread. And that ties into their ancient grains social studies classes. And then the 8th grade, we have a new program there where I think of this as like our full circle school garden program. They learn how to test the health of the soil and then tweak it and add what they need to add to balance it out to make the soil healthier for the other kids that are still growing things in the dirt. And at the moment, we're also piloting a Gloucester High School internship program that brings a student who's been in all of our programs for their entire life, and they come in and act as a garden mentor for other kids. This is our first year of having that, but it's been really cool to see how that intern we have this year is like, oh, I remember this. I remember that smoothie. That was awesome. And she can share her enthusiasm with the kids that are just coming up now experiencing those same programs. So at this point, we've been in the schools for so long that we do just have kids that have experienced the whole thing. So, because that was such a successful program, we've actually been able to work with other schools and districts, I think 31 at this point, to roll it out across other communities all over the Commonwealth. So there are kids growing, doing salad days and fall harvest days according to our programs all over the state, which has been a really exciting program to get up and running. So that means over 20,000 Massachusetts kids grow their own food, like Gloucester kids do. And because that program worked so well, and we were getting so many calls from other communities, we wound up launching our Share the Harvest community consulting program, where we work with other community nonprofits in different towns and cities to try to get them up and running. We've worked with Ipswich Housing Authority, Salem Council on Aging, AgeSpan, which used to be the Elder Services of Merrimack Valley. It's all about consulting on how you can create a community garden, how you can offer these types of workshops. We work with them to source grow bags in particular. Those are really popular, not super intimidating options for being able to move them around. And so that's been an awesome way for us to really deepen our impact. And then at home in Gloucester, which is ultimately our focus, most of our work is focused downtown. We have 2 projects at the moment that are just coming to completion. One is agriculture. We have a community garden that's at Willowwood Gardens, which is a Gloucester Housing Authority neighborhood. They've had a really successful community garden there since about 2017. And we received funding from Essex County Community Foundation, and we were able to partner with GHA and the Chamber of Commerce to create this expansion of that garden. It was all part of a collaborative design process where we kind of said to people, what would you like to see here? What would you like to be able to do in this otherwise disused, abandoned lot that was next to the community garden? And what they told us was that they wanted, again, a place where they could come together, share food, connect, eat, and they wanted to do it in shade because downtown Gloucester, there are not a lot of trees. This area also, there are tons of kids that live in this neighborhood. And they really, in the beginning with the garden, they were the ones that pushed it forward. We have all these awesome pictures from 2017 of kids with drills, just building raised garden beds. And they really were also the neighborhood people who helped us engage their parents, a lot of whom are working multiple jobs, speak different languages. So this is a project that's really pushed forward by the kids in downtown Gloucester, which is awesome. We're going to be getting a structure up there this spring, and then adding perennial beds with herbs and different things that people can share. We're also adding more garden beds to the community garden, and everything should hopefully be nicely connected by the end of the summer. And then if we move to the next slide, sorry, I'm talking like rapid fire. Burnham's Field Community Garden is our biggest community garden. I don't know how many of you have been downtown to Burnham's Field, but it's a huge public park, and you can walk straight to City Hall, I think, in about 5 minutes. It hasn't always had the best reputation in the world, and about 10 years ago, a community garden was put in place by a group of residents in that neighborhood, and they asked us to come on board and help manage it. This is the space where we saw demand really triple during the pandemic. Our wait list was huge. And so we did a lot of fundraising around this with the community to say, you know, we know you want to be able to grow your own food here. Let's work together to figure out how to make that happen. So through generous community support and also a federal infrastructure grant and a lot of support from the city of Gloucester, we were able to almost double this space. So now 53 different households from downtown Gloucester can grow their own food at Burnham's Field. And that's just been really exciting. I actually started out as a volunteer at Becker Growers in 2018, so my family has a garden bed there. And when we got that money from the from the federal government, I think I screamed. It was probably a little embarrassing. But so if you want to get involved with Backyard Growers, you can volunteer your time, whether that means coming out and digging with us in a garden or popping into the office to help us organize spring appeals. At the moment, we're doing our spring appeal. And you can also join us at community events and workshops on our website, backyardgrowers.org. We've got a full calendar. Share news of our work, talk about what we're doing, and then also feel free to donate, because that definitely helps us continue to achieve our mission. So.
So part of our worship following usually what's a sermon, and this is just so good. We'll have a minute of silence, and then if anybody has any comments or perhaps questions for Courtney, we'll have time for that. So let's just take a minute of silence. I do have my bell this week. Any comments or questions for Courtney? And if so, please raise your hand. Stephanie and then Mary Ann. And can you come up? And Courtney, could you stand too? Yeah.
Just as far as the grow bags, is there a way to like donate them or gift them, like purchase them for others, but where it's making a donation to you guys and then it kind of gets your name out? Is that something that's possible? Okay.
So we have on our website, we actually, during the pandemic, again, we launched an online shop because that allowed us to make a lot of contact-free deliveries and keep everything moving. We have a pay it forward option where you can donate that way, but we also have grow bags available for purchase by people that aren't in our programs through the shop. So you can kind of do either or, and they're branded with a nice little tag. Yeah.
And there will be a second collection today too. Go figure. Mary Ann. Yep.
Morning, everybody. I live up at the Halyard Apartments up by the, on Schoolhouse Road, and they're doing a lot of things for an apartment complex to build community, combining a lot of things with the Y that's right there. I was just curious if if anyone had ever thought about trying to do some kind of a small plot community garden up there at all.
Not just yet, partly because I think our hands are still full right now, but we partner with the Y in other ways where we're actually at Camp Spindrift with them. I think if Halyard approached us and wanted to figure out some programming, we'd definitely do that. My mom lives over there, actually. And I know they have that clubhouse, so I'm sure we could be lured in to do garden training or something like that. But we have a couple of residents from Halyard that are in the Burnham's Field Community Garden, too, because you can just walk down the hill.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else here? Peg, and then Susie.
I just wanted to really thank you. Thank you for being a young, vibrant person who's teaching other young people how to save our earth. And thank you, Rev Sue, for giving all of us optimism as well.
You're welcome. Pat, you could pass it to Susie.
I was at the very beginning of Backyard Growers. I had two families for 2 years, and I can't get over how much is given by the backyard grower. I can't do this very well. And giving the raised beds, and then giving all the soil, and giving all the seeds, and having fun. All the children, I would have the mom and the children, and teach them how to make furrows and plant seeds, and I had a wonderful time. Just great. And I can't tell you how amazed I am at how big you've grown.
They really have grown so much. But, ha 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 ha. I don't know if you heard that. He said literally. That's my husband for you.
Courtney, churches are great places to raise money, so you're welcome here. Your programs have expanded, and we've been supporters, and we've followed you, for quite a number of years. What's the biggest dream that's not yet fulfilled? If you could really raise a lot of money, what's the biggest need that you have that you guys would really love to do that you can't do now?
So I would say a lot of our work also requires really steadfast partnerships, which we definitely have, and that's awesome. But I know the pipe dreams that my team has is definitely a mini farm somewhere on Cape Ann. That would be so invaluable for us as a teaching space. A lot of similar organizations do have that kind of space and access to land. But I think, as we all know, through the housing crisis in particular, it's really hard around here. And so figuring out where we could have enough room to have that kind of teaching space, and then the funding to make it into something that's really valuable to the community and what the community wants and needs, I think that's probably one of our biggies. Although if I had the rest of the team here, they'd all have ideas too. Just what you were saying about the youth in our community, I just wanted to emphasize that I think I'm probably the oldest person on our team, and I'm 38. The rest of our team, the youngest person's 24. There are 7 of us, 8 of us now maybe. So really Backyard Growers is pushed forward by younger people in the community looking for ways to engage with everybody and make things happen. So I just wanted to make sure that that was also communicated about our organization, because I think it makes us unique in some ways. But
Totally. Amazing. Anybody online? And raise your hand if you're online and there's something you might like to share or ask. And I think that's Beata in Germany. France and Germany. All right. There she is. Hello, Beata. But any other questions or comments from our online community? All right. Well, thank you again, Courtney.
Thank you.
Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for so many expressions of new life around us and within us. And we ask you, O God, to please continue to bless Courtney and her team with all that they need to make their vision a reality. We ask that you bless them with the support, the hands, the finances that they need so that their hope-filled actions can continue to make a difference in the world. We are also mindful this day, O God, of those who are in need of hope, who are struggling in mind, body, or spirit. And so you are invited, dear community, in this minute to share any names of those who are in need of God's loving presence this day.
Bill Friend.
Loving God, we trust that you hold all of us in the embrace of your love. And now together, let us pray this adaptation of the Lord's Prayer. It is found in your order of worship. Our Father, Holy Mother, Creator of the cosmos, source of life, you are in my mind, in my garden, and my cup of wine and loaf of bread. Blessed be your many names. All we need to live and thrive, we receive from you, Creator. Your reign of unity come through our giving hearts and willing days. Grant what we need each day in bread and insight. Let forgiveness flow like a river between us, for yours is a vision of an abundant, sustainable, and peaceful future for all. You are the hope within us, now and forever. Amen. So as I mentioned, there will be a second collection today. The first folks coming around, if you wish to donate to the ministry and missions of the church. And then the second collection in the building will be for backyard growers. And online, you have links to both the church and to backyard growers. We are so grateful for the many ways you help this community thrive. The offering will now be received. Please join in our prayer of dedication found in your order of worship. Creator God, source of every blessing, we offer you these gifts as we offer ourselves with our whole hearts. May these gifts be transformed for the good of all life on this earth and for future generations. Help us to become instruments for earth's healing, rooted and grounded in your love. Amen. I want to thank some people. First, Kathleen, the Music and Hospitality Committees, and Scott Moore and Chan Yang for last night's extraordinary concert. It was remarkable, so thank you. And look at this. And thank you to Suzanne and Rob for our flowers and plants, really wonderful. And to Rick and Griffin upstairs, and Peter and Sarah for reading, and of course to Courtney. Please bring your bulletins with you if you're in the building downstairs, because you'll notice there's something that says feast blessing. And so when we get downstairs, and usually I greet people out in the narthex before, as people are coming and going, I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going downstairs, and I want all of you to join me who are in the building. Whether or not you brought food, it doesn't matter. We'll have plenty for everyone, and our potlucks are extraordinary. So please, 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 if you can, do come. What else? On Saturday at 10 o'clock, we are going to have a Memorial Wood cleanup. I've been walking there a lot this spring, and there is a ton of trash, especially by the stone wall. We have lots and lots of trash bags for people to pick things up. We will bless you on your way out, and we will bless you when you come back. So we will meet here at 10 o'clock on Saturday, and then fan out to clean up Memorial Wood. Choir is not meeting this week in the middle of the week, but instead on Sunday before church at 8:30. And just an update on Children's Church. Sadly, we didn't really receive any good applicants. Good news, Peg Riss and Jim O'Neill, Peg Kohler, and I had a great meeting on Wednesday, and we're going to go forward with this together in a volunteer-led way. So you'll be hearing more about that. We hope to enroll families, put together the curriculum, set up a room in a way that will be ready to go and beautiful and wonderful for September. And we will be looking for folks to be able to take turns in leading what is going to be a really lovely children's church experience. So just wanted to let you know where that is. And if you're not a member yet, an official member, and you would like to be, I'm going to be holding 2 chats, May 17th and also on June 3rd. I know it's way off, but I would love to have another celebration of new members before I go on sabbatical in late July. I'm going to be gone for about a month, and I want to make sure I have your commitments before I go. And good news too is while I'm gone, Reverend Elizabeth King, friend to many, who lives right in Lanesville, she will be covering worship, and she is much beloved, so you will be in good hands. But if you are thinking about membership, would love to chat, and if those 2 dates don't work, just let me know and we will find another time. I think that's it. All right, our closing hymn is number 250 in the hymnal. It's printed in your order of worship online, friends. It's in the bulb, there is a flower. Please rise. Please be seated. The benediction today is going to be a little different. So as I offer the blessing, I invite you to hold your hands open and to look at them. And whether you are a gardener or not, this benediction is for you. Creator God, bless these hands, some that will till the soil, plant seeds, flowers, and trees, weed gardens and lawns, harvest vegetables, create meals, enjoy meals, and share their food with others. May these hands create gardens and lives that provide food for the hungry, beauty for our souls, and peace for the spirit. May these hands be instruments of God's resurrecting love. Amen. Now come join the feast.